I'm sorry not to be with you all in Dhaka today. Firstly, I just want to say how happy I am that this Moodle is taking place today. This is the first Moot in Bangladesh, which is a fantastic achievement that really shows the dedication of Mizanur and the BrainStation 23 team. So it's a real honour to be involved. Thank you very much for having me here today. I'm going to talk about the partner program and how partners are a very big part of the Moodle ecosystem. Not only that, a very big part of the success of Moodle, and how in turn BrainStation 23 is a big part of that success. Just a quick introduction from me. I'm Max Espley. I'm the Moodle APAC and Canada Channel Manager. I'm based in Singapore and I look after Moodle's partner program across this entire region. I look after 23 partners in total across APAC and Canada, and I am part of the Global Sales and Partnerships team, which is a 7-strong partnership team headed up by Emily Scott, who is our head of growth. I'd just like to begin by really kind of reiterating how big Moodle is. I'm hoping that a lot of you in the room today were aware of this, but if not, I hope this slide really kind of illustrates just how big we are. You can see all of these stats on our website, so please do go and take a look. But basically, when you're looking at these maps, think of the darker orange areas as the areas where we have more registered sites. So if I was to take this map across the whole of the world, you'd probably see that Spain was the darkest orange, as that's our #1 for registered sites with 13,000 users. Also high up there are the United States, Germany, Mexico, and Brazil. When it comes to Asia, Indonesia comes first, 7th place overall, definitely the largest in Asia with 5,200 users. So here, obviously, in this picture here, you're seeing the Bangladesh registered sites, which is 125. And, that might not look so big, but please do bear in mind that this is only the registered sites, and it's really an estimate of, how many sites we have worldwide. And we think, from research we've done, that it probably reflects about 1/3 of the sites in total. But hopefully that's already come across, we're incredibly proud of these statistics. We've got over 148,000 sites worldwide, doing over 56 million courses, and this is across 235 countries worldwide. But perhaps the stat we're proud of most is this: the number of total users, 518 million users. We were very pleased when we achieved 500 million. It was a real milestone for us about 6 or 7 months ago. So, this is really, really astonishing. It's a very large number. To put it in perspective, it reflects 6% of the world's population. I'd also kind of like to just give you a bit of an idea of how popular we are in terms of market share. These figures here and these diagrams reflect LMS market share in the higher education vertical. All of the green columns are Moodle. So you'll see a really nice big green color splodged across this slide, which is really, really encouraging. We're the market leader in the Middle East, Africa, Asia, Europe, Oceania, and Latin America. The only territory where we come down on is North America. And this is because of 2 very successful local LMSs, Canvas and D2L. But even there, we still pack a pretty big punch. We still have a big influence on the market there. Bringing it back to Asia, I'm particularly pleased with the figures here. We have 72% market share across Asia. And what's particularly pleasing is this represents a 4% increase on last year. So we're actually growing our market here as well. So where do I come into Moodle? Well, look, I look after the partners, as I was saying. I look after all of the APAC and Canadian partners. We've got over 75 partners worldwide across more than 70 countries. When you're looking at my territory, specifically APAC and Canada, that's 23 partners 26 partnerships across 15 countries. Now, I'm not going to read out all of these partners. You can see for yourselves on this map that there's a really nice big blue coloration here to show that we have partnerships in pretty much all major Asian territories. But I will just pick out the two most recent. We recently got a new partner in Australia, LMS Hosting Services. And what I'm particularly proud of at the start of the year was Edutech Sri Lanka in Sri Lanka, our very first partner in Sri Lanka. But today, is really all about Bangladesh and really about BrainStation 23. And one thing I would just like to point out here is, yes, they are our partner in Bangladesh, but they're truly international. And I'll say a little bit more about this later in the presentation. But to all intents and purposes, they also look after Pakistan as well. They've done some fantastic work here too and represented Moodle in a great manner across that territory. The other thing, actually, what I think about it to really mention is that, what's the makeup of our partners? And they are a real mix. Some are particularly large, some have more than 250 staff, which is how many staff Moodle employs in total. So some are bigger than us, but some are much smaller. They might just be a husband and wife team. Some come from a software background, some come from an education background. Some might also specialize in content services, some might specialize in translation services. So it's a real mix. We've got a real mix of people working with Moodle as partners. I think the main thing for me to say is, they all pack an incredible punch and they all have an absolute devotion to Moodle. So it really makes my job an absolute pleasure. So why should you work with a Moodle certified partner? Well, I'm going to read what I put on this slide because, this is obviously relevant. This is the bread and butter of what certified Moodle partners do. You see I've listed here that all of the services they provide: hosting, customization, configuration, customized integrations, themes, designs, installations, consulting, training, course development, and analytics. And of course, something that you could be thinking, or people might say, is that anyone can download Moodle as it's open source, and that's true. Anyone can do that. Anyone can build their own platform by themselves. But where I'd say my partners come in, if you're looking at someone specifically like BrainStation 23, where the sort of huge advantage of working with a partner comes in, is they're going to free up your time. They're going to free up your IT department's time, the IT department behind the institution you're working at, in terms of building an LMS. That's time you've got back by working with a partner. And also, probably the second main thing to say about Moodle partners is, they really do have the skills and creativity to take perhaps an ordinary, generic-looking LMS and turn it into something amazing and totally bespoke to your organization's needs. So there's a real huge advantage with working with them then. I definitely feel I've mentioned the two kind of main factors behind why I'd say you need to work with a certified partner. But of course, there are non-Moodle vendors out there, and I really want to illustrate the massive advantages of working with a certified partner versus a non-Moodle vendor. And I think the first thing to mention is the community factor. By working with a partner, partners are a massive part of the Moodle community. So really, you're effectively working, you're effectively part of that community by working with a partner. Partners have a really close relationship with myself and Moodle HQ, the whole of Moodle HQ. And this is all part of our really big community, which is definitely our superpower. And BrainStation 23 absolutely embodies this. And it's absolutely exemplified by what's going on today, by the fact they're organising this Bangladesh move. But in addition to that, they can also offer a fuller suite of products, which you wouldn't get from a non-Moodle vendor. And this includes our premium Moodle app. They feed back directly to the roadmap, which is very significant. So when you're working with a partner, your feedback will go to them, which will go to our roadmap, and they are very involved in that. They also get priority bug fixes and security updates. And they're more involved in testing new versions prior to release. So, when we get a new iteration of Moodle, partners will be absolutely at the cutting edge of all of that. They'll be looking at the new features, any updates, any innovations, and they're the very first people to view this. Partners also have access to the latest patches. And I think this is quite significant, because other LMS organizations do not give their partners access to bug fixes, and they certainly don't give them such considerations when it comes to adopting new features within the product. I think another huge thing to say about Moodle partners and why it's a big advantage working with one of them is that they, it's certainly the confidence you're going to get by working with a Moodle partner. Only Moodle partner, well, all Moodle partners are certified by very rigorous technical and services standards. And I know this. I'm very close to this. I see this, very much at the coalface. Partner. It takes probably about usually 6 months for someone to become a partner, maybe 3 or 4 if it's done quickly. It's a very rigorous process. It's not easy. There's big application forms. There's a very thorough technical evaluation. We look for robust references. Their references have to be really good. And financial checks is a huge part of the process as well. So you really can be confident you're working with someone that has the stamp of Moodle HQ's approval. I think another big thing to mention here is the transformation factor. A lot of you may be kind of like, maybe this could refer to sort of those that are looking to transition or upscale their online learning platforms. But there might be people in the room today who are really coming at this new, and you're starting out on your online or hybrid education journey. Absolutely, if that's the case, please do go and talk to BrainStation 23. They're going to really help you there. And last but not least, they give back to the Moodle community. I've talked a lot about the Moodle ecosystem, but basically they give back financially. So every time a customer works with a Moodle partner, a percentage of that money goes straight back into the Moodle project. And I know this because this is actually a big part of my job, to ensure that money comes in, that the partners pay. They pay a percentage of their money to us so we can improve Moodle further. And, as if that wasn't enough, of course, there's the technical developments they bring as well. So every time you work with a partner and there's sort of an improvement to the code, this is an excellent way of supporting the Moodle project, because that code will go back into the system as well, and others will benefit from it. I want to move on specifically to BrainStation 23's credentials, and this is really significant for me because, as far as I'm concerned, they've been a fantastic partner, and this is absolutely just exploded in the last 2 years as well. They really, really have contributed a lot to Moodle. Just like to start by saying, they are the first and only certified Moodle partner in Bangladesh. This all came about in 2020. They have experienced massive financial growth, over 175% growth in the last 12 months. And I think this is an astonishing achievement, not least bearing in mind Bangladesh has experienced obviously a few political issues, and it's not been the easiest of times here. Yet they've managed somehow to sort of deliver these incredible results. They've got new staff. They've got more staff than they ever had before. 7 new members of staff in the past 12 months across the development team, sales and marketing, which makes for a total of 30 staff in total. They are truly international. And I know I touched on this earlier when I was talking about Pakistan, but I just want to give you some examples here of countries they work in and where they have customers. The United States, Mexico, Brazil, India, Pakistan, as I've mentioned, Japan, Sudan, Kyrgyzstan, the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Spain, and Australia. And I know there's an awful lot more countries I haven't even mentioned there. And they do cover several verticals. They work across K-12, they work across universities, corporate organisation, not-for-profits, government organisations, and training organisations. And I'm just going to give you a few examples of customers here, just to give you a bit of an idea. They work with the University Technical Malaysia, Malacca. They also do some great work with IDE Bangladesh, which is a very big charity in Bangladesh that really looks after marginalized groups within Bangladesh. And to give you an example of a training organization, they do some great work with pre-cadet courses with the Mass Marine Academy in Bangladesh. And what's more, they became a Moodle Certified Integration Partner at the end of last year with their Proctoring for Moodle tool. Now, this was a very popular tool in any case. It was already used by thousands of students. And I think this is a great example of BrainStation 23's dedication to Moodle. They don't just produce LMSs, but they're there for all learning outcomes, and they produce great tools as well. They're a very strong collaborator with other partners, especially in the last couple of years. Recently, I know they've been Mizanur has attended and spoken at the Estonian and Philippines moots, actually, as well as the Netherlands moots as well. So, he's really been really active within the Moodle community, and this doesn't go unnoticed. This is a really a real feather in the cap to BrainStation 23. Yeah, and they are ISO certified as well. This is something that's very significant, not easy to get at all. It's a long process to get this information security management system certification, which of course is great from a company point of view, as it means you can be sure you're working with a very secure organization. I think I've mentioned this several times already, but definitely, hosting the inaugural MoodleMoot in Bangladesh is something that is an excellent achievement, and long may this continue. I really do hope I can join you next year. And they're well on the way to becoming a premium partner. Just to give you a bit of information about that, premium partners are basically partners who have that bit more experience, who are maybe sort of proven over a longer period of time, perhaps offering sort of more advanced marketing services, as well as sort of a bigger sales department as well. And I think the thing to say here is that BrainStation 23 are well on the way to this, and I fully expect this to happen within the next 6 months. I just wanted to end with a few photos that really kind of evidence BrainStation 23's dedication to the partner program. Many of these photos are taken from the Global Moot in Edinburgh last year. Well, I was very fortunate to meet Mizanur. It's lovely to meet him and spend some time with BrainStation 23 and other partners over the course of 3 days. Also, there's a photo of us here somewhere amongst those photos, as well as one of our CEO, Scott Anderberg, who I think you heard from earlier today, and our founder, Martin de Guiamas, as well as Marion Brett, who looks after our certified integration partners. I've also included an example of one of the many webinars that I know BrainStation 23 work on, and I was very fortunate to be involved in this one on AI, as Mizanur kindly invited me, which again was a huge honor. And of course, as I've already mentioned as well, Mizanur has spoken at several moots recently, and I've included an image here of the Estonian moot as well. So that's it from me. And I just want to end by really saying thank you very, very much for having me here today. And to reiterate a message I've said earlier in this presentation, but if you really want to know more about Moodle and you're interested in LMSs, please do talk to BrainStation 23. You're in fantastic hands today. As I say, I only wish I could join you today, but I want to wish you a fantastic day, and I hope you get a lot out of today. Many thanks.